You're not trying to get this one girl. Oh, goodness me. A woman's reaction to the mystery method by Mystery with Chris Odom. You're not trying to get this one girl or even get laid tonight. Rather, you practice with the long-term goal of having a powerful social skill set in the future, one you may confidently turn on in times of need. It's like playing a video game. If your man dies, just hit the reload button and play again. This is really good advice. I've lived this. I actually know that this is good advice. I have been turned down by the vast majority of the men that I've asked to buy dances as a dancer. The vast majority of them have turned me down. They were not interested in buying dances from me. They said no. Sometimes they wasted my time a little bit and then they said no. The fact is, at the end of the night, I still made money because I just kept on asking and kept on trying. And that's very, very important. You have to get used to trying, even if many, many times people are going to say no. The idea is to just keep trying and practicing until you get it right. And so the fact that he's advising people to do this is dead on. It is extremely good advice. Even if you don't take any other advice from this book, that advice right there is good advice. You're going to bite me on the head again. Honestly, I've known people who've been very bad with women, and I've suggested to them that they go to bars, go to clubs, hang out there and talk to girls and just practice it. And they really like bucket that idea. Like, I don't want to talk to, those cheap women who hang out in bars and clubs. Like, okay, whatever. It's not necessarily about hanging out with cheap girls or picking up cheap girls. It's about practicing talking to women, practicing flirting with women. You get good at that, and suddenly you meet a beautiful woman in a library or, some other intellectually acceptable place, and you know how to talk to her all of a sudden. If you don't practice, you won't know. So practice, keep practicing. Don't take it seriously. If it doesn't work, don't take it seriously. It's a learning experience. Just keep going and keep practicing. The M3 model: attraction, comfort building, seduction. Every love story ever told and every relationship you've ever had or will ever have has a plot line that progresses through each of these 3 stages. That's one of the cool things about reading this book. Like, I know a lot of people will say maybe that it's outdated, but I think that this is very solid information, very good information, because the thing that struck me as I read through this was this is a layout for any relationship. So if you are a very conservative, say, very conservative Christian, because that's what I'm most familiar with, that's what I've seen a lot, this still works. This is still information that you can use. You don't necessarily want to go on the strict timeline that Mystery goes on. I think he says that it takes about 7 hours to get a woman to bed, and you probably aren't going to want to do that if you're planning on waiting until marriage or anything like that. But even if you are planning on waiting till marriage, this is good information to have. This is the layout of a relationship. This is how it works, start to finish. And it's like that for virtually every relationship. Each relationship goes through these phases, and as they go through these phases in their formation, different things need to happen for them to reach the next stage successfully. And a lot of this chapter, he goes through and he talks about the things that people do wrong by skipping one of these steps or another, and the relationship just doesn't succeed. Because if you miss any of these steps on the way to forming a sexual relationship with somebody, it doesn't form properly. And so the woman will eventually just walk away. The 4 M3 sequencing mistakes. Number 1, to start at the end. Often, to beautiful women in particular, seduction first is little more than the equivalent of saying, You don't know me, but will you sleep with me? Yes, yes, this is exactly what it's like, and I've had so much of it in my life. Like, I can't begin, because I mean, exotic dancer, most people think that we're, it's weird because we live in this weird limbo where a lot of people who are in pickup arts, they realize that we're kind of a unique thing to pick up. And a lot of more mature men understand that we're not as easy to get into bed as we might appear to be. Like, usually we're after money. But at the same time, so many men will come up to us and they just assume that we hand out sex like it's candy. Um, just because we're acting seductive and dancing around seductively and pretending to be interested in sex as part of our performance, a lot of people mistake that for handing out sex like candy. And so we do get a lot of that. Hey, I don't know you, you don't know me, but let's have sex anyway. Like, random people. Imagine going to work and having random people walk up to you and ask you for a blowjob that you've never met before or seen before. Like, that's the first thing they say to you. Literally, the first thing they say to you. Not hi, not what's your name, not who are you. Hey, can I have a blowjob? It doesn't work very well. Sequencing mistake number 2: to start in the middle. The nice guy. I think this section really doesn't need much of an introduction. The idea is that instead of building attraction with the woman, you just skip straight to making her comfortable with you and making her like you, and we're just going to be best buddies and best friends, and she never develops any kind of an attraction for you. So the chances of that method particularly succeeding are not good. You have to have attraction somewhere, probably toward the beginning, at least a little bit. And you have to continually build that for a while. You do want her to be comfortable around you. You do want her to get to know you and like you and feel like, you're not just some random guy walking up to her saying, hey, let's have sex because. At the same time, if you just act like a friend, there's a very strong chance that she'll just subconsciously assume that you're one of her gal pals, and she will not be interested in having sex with you. She won't even be thinking about having sex with you. And then guys who do that, they get irritated with us, like we did something wrong. Like, I don't know. I mean, if you come up to me and act like you're my friend, I'm going to assume you're my friend. Sorry. Sequencing mistake number 3: to start at the beginning, but skip the middle and go straight to the end. I have not had quite so much experience with this. I don't know so much about this. Like, I know it happens, and I know guys have these experiences, and he even leaves a nice case study in the book so that you can get a better, clearer idea of how it works. But I mean, personally, I just haven't had as much experience with it. He also divides it into 2 categories: failure to justify a mutual attraction and disregard of her comfort. Basically, skipping that middle stage where she decides that he's actually, let's see. I mean, when a woman meets a man and there is mutual attraction, which is really nice, she's still, there's that immediate reaction of, oh, he's interesting, he's engaging, he's fun, I want to get to know him better. But you generally just don't sleep with someone you've met right away. Like, that's not how most women act. Do some women act that way? Yes. Do most women act that way? No. We usually want to get to know you a little bit better before we just hop into bed with you. And so I guess what happens when guys do this is they kind of immediately start trying to, get very, very handsy. They immediately start trying to move into sex as fast as they can. And women look at it and think, oh, okay, I was attracted at first, but, I'm really not sure. Like, when they're really, really aroused, it's like, well, you're really exciting and you're really interesting and I just met you. And, sometimes it kind of starts to happen, but then it's like, well, I need to think on this. And then they start backing out really quick because you're moving too fast. And that's basically what it is. If you skip the stage where women have a chance to get that secondary assessment of, okay, he was kind of good looking when I first saw him, he was kind of attractive when he first started talking, do I actually really want to have sex with him? And if you just go past that stage and attempt to bypass that stage and immediately, start trying to have sex with them, it's like, oh, okay, let's rein it in. Let's put the brakes on here. Let's think about this. And frequently when they start trying to think about this, it's like, yeah, he's moving way too fast. Something's not right here. And they run away. That's basically it. At least that's my understanding of it. Sequencing mistake number 4. To start at the beginning but get stuck in the middle. The friend zone. Or as Mystery calls it, the friendship zone. I personally don't necessarily agree with Mystery at this point, and I need to reread the chapter a few times and really ponder it for a while, but I don't necessarily agree. Like, I'm too used to the idea of building a very long relationship. Now, I do agree with him on the fact that if you don't have enough attraction and if you don't maintain a certain level of attraction while you're building a relationship in that comfort building stage, she's going to just immediately think, okay, he's just a friend. So you need to continue building attraction. I mean, for somebody like me who's looking, or was looking at the time that I was dating, for a very long-term partner, you kind of want the attraction building stage like to go in spurts. And this is how I personally see it. You have your attraction building stage. She's attracted to you. You're attracted to her. You start getting to know each other. You enter into the comfort building stage. You're slowly building up the comfort building stage. You're keeping the attraction going. You're continuing to be attractive to her. You're continuing to work toward that attraction. He talks about how in this chapter, how women, if they're attracted enough to you, they'll try to seduce you. And, this is what I did with my husband. At some point I just decided, okay, I've got to start something here. But I think that's a better goal. I think you kind of want to continue building up attraction over a period of time so that she gets increasingly hooked on you. And I kind of go back to that idea that women are going to stay with you, or more likely to stay with you, if they are making an investment in you. And so if you're building that attraction, building comfort, but also, building that attraction and building comfort simultaneously, the longer the period of time that you do that, you don't have to do it for years, but, I think the number is actually 2 months. I need to look that up. But the longer you do that, if you space it out over a period of time and keep just building it and building it and building it, she's investing time in you. And the more she invests in you, number one, the more you get to know each other, the more you establish whether or not you have mutual goals. Like, if you don't ever want to have kids and she really wants to have kids, that might be a problem for her or you down the road. If you do want to have kids and she doesn't ever want to have kids, that could be a problem. If you find stumbling blocks, you can cope with them better before you've had sex than after. But it's a point at which she's investing her time in you. She's putting more and more of herself into a relationship with you, which I think means that she's going to be more inclined to stay with you. That doesn't mean you want to dive into the friend zone with her. You don't want to have this nice platonic friendship. Will you guys cut it out, please? You don't want to have this nice platonic friendship, but at the same time, I think that building up a relationship, building up a strong amount of rapport first is just very important. And I think it's important for anybody who's looking for a serious long-term relationship that's actually going to last. The more I read about it, you want to take about 7 hours of time with her to build her comfort and build her attraction, and then you can get her into bed. I think that's premature. I think it's too fast. I'm not saying waste massive amounts of time with a woman, but I think continuing to steadily lure her in and building up something with her is going to, I think it makes for a healthier, more solid relationship in the long term. After this, he briefly goes over the M3 model of attract, build comfort, and seduce, and breaks each section into 3 subsections and talks about them briefly. He talks a little bit about last minute resistance, and I'm kind of waiting for the chapter where he gets to the final stage, more toward the end of the book, to just see what exactly he has to say about last minute resistance. The brief occasions when he's touched on it, the first thing I think is, you should not have to deal with last minute resistance. Does it happen? Yes. I mean, every single time a woman has sex with someone new, she's having that moment of, okay, is this really what I want? As he's about to, plunge right into her. I mean, even with my husband, I remember having that moment of, okay, here we go. Is this what you want? Yes, this is what I want. Okay, we're going ahead. But really, it shouldn't be resistance. There shouldn't be any point at which a girl is saying, I'm really not sure this is a good idea. If she's not sure it's a good idea, she needs to go figure out her own shit. You don't need to be messing with that, I think. And I know that a lot of people have criticized this book and what Mystery said about last minute resistance. A lot of people look at it. I think even Tomasi has looked at it multiple times and said, meh, don't mess around with it. If she doesn't know what she wants, then you don't want to have anything to do with her. And I think that's very reasonable for multiple reasons. Number one, if she's not attracted enough to you to want to just dive in and go for it, if she's having last minute resistance issues, she's not as attracted to you as she should be. Or she's got sexual hangups that she needs to figure out before she should be having sex with you. Again, we'll probably get into that more when we get to the chapter where he discusses last minute resistance. He might have some very valid points on last minute resistance, but when I look at it, it's like, no, you shouldn't have to deal with that. I think at some point, and I need to find the quote, I think it's later on in the book, he talks about how if you've built up enough attraction, if you've built up enough comfort, if you've played your stages of the M3 model properly, you really shouldn't be encountering much, if any, last minute resistance. And I believe that. I think that if your relationship is forming correctly, last minute resistance should not be a problem for you. But anyway, I believe, yep, we're on to the review. I believe that is all of chapter 4. And so that's it. After this, we get on to A1, open. So the first part of the attraction building phase of the M3 model, which is where he starts breaking down how the relationship is supposed to form and how to make that happen, or to go about making that happen. So this should be really interesting. I'm looking forward to chapter 5. It is chapter 5, right? I'm looking forward to chapter 5. And so this should be fun. I think this is where the book starts to really get more meaty. So I've been kind of holding my breath waiting for that. Anyway, it is extremely late and the cats are extremely nutty. So I will talk to you guys later.